So you identify as an Enneagram type 2. Would you tell us just a little bit about what getting to the type 2 was like for you? Whether it was, oh, this is me, couldn't be anything else, or if you struggled a little bit between a few other types?
Yes, it took me a little bit. Um, I I think as I learned more about the two, because they're in the dependent stance, that I really sometimes depend on others to kind of like say I'm going in the right direction with something, that I sometimes can distrust my own gut instinct on what I feel is right. And so I really was stuck between which I consider my tri-type was 268, because things I can get very anxious and I can get very fearful and I can overanalyze things a lot. And then
Which
but
would
I
be
can
that
also
six, just for people
yes,
who, okay,
yes,
so
sorry,
feeling
yeah.
some
And
of that
then
six
the eight
energy.
piece is because um I I am very passionate and I am very all about like everybody should be treated justly and they should be treated the same. And I can get very like easily. I don't mind confrontation at times, just depending on the situation. And you can ask my husband, he would have been like, will speak her mind whenever she feels like it. And so now learning about the Enneagram, that's usually because I'm not always drawing on the most healthy aspects of eight, which is where two goes, when they're in stress. And so, but I think when I really sat down and really read what was the motivations behind each of those three types, when I really like sat down and did that, as soon as I read the two, I just got tears in my eyes because the underlying, motivation behind the two is to feel loved and wanted. And so I think for me, it was just not ever really understanding like, holy crap, that's why I do all these things. Because I just want other people to love and want me just as much as I love and want them. So
Yeah, yeah. So the two striving to feel connected, loved, appreciated. And so
mhm.
they give all of that and sometimes with the expectation that they'll get that back. And that is, yeah, that's kind of the driver, the motive behind those actions. So I was gonna ask you about that stress arrow 2 and 8 because my boyfriend is an 8. And then I interviewed one of our Enneagram University peers, Rebecca Tennyson, who also is a type 2 or identifies as a type 2. And then she talked about that highway to 8.
Mhm.
So you kind of shared a little bit about that. Since you've already talked about it, then let's just dig into a little bit about that growth arrow for the type 2, which is the 4, the sometimes known as the individualist, the romantic, driven by the need to feel unique, significant. What parts of that do you see serving you, those tendencies of the 4 that let you know, all right, I'm incorporating some other things, I'm growing here?
um it's a journey for me, for real. And I think as I've been going through this process for myself, I really started learning that what I need from that 4 is to be okay with being okay and different. Like I don't need to merge with other people to feel significant. That that I can what's the word I'm looking for? Like what I have to offer may be completely different than what other people do, and that's a good thing. That's what you want. You need some individualism, and I know, like again, like I was mentioning with twos, they tend to like kind of merge or be dependent on people navigating or kind of like letting them know that they're doing well or that they matter. Whereas fours tend to like, they want to feel unique and they want to feel special. And um, so I really had to like sit and lean into that and sometimes just be okay with being by myself and doing that. Because that's another thing with two sometimes is they don't like to be alone very much. And so I if I could add just real quick, I went to an Enneagram retreat in February that Vanessa ran. And
And
one of
just
the
for
things
anybody who doesn't know,
who Vanessa is.
Yeah, Vanessa runs the Enneagram workshop.
Right. She's a coach herself, and she actually was a part of our Enneagram University group coaching sessions. And so she offered this retreat to anybody to just kind of come and learn to grow within themselves, be more present with themselves. And one of the some of the activities she had us do was like she had us paint one day, and I was like freaked out, a deer in the headlights, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't do these kinds of things. Kerri is not creative. Kerri does not, what is everybody else doing? And I'll just do that type of a thing. And that really allowed me to kind of pull into that 4 space, because I had to sit there and go, Kerri, who cares what it's going to look like? Just put something on paper. It's fine that you're not doing the same thing everybody else is doing. And so but it was like this underlying like anxiety and fear sat there for a minute, because I was totally like lost, and then had to be okay with being lost. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. I love that. Thanks for sharing that story. So I know you know this, Kerri, but just for listeners, as a reminder, those 2s, 3s, and 4s are in that heart center of intelligence, where kind of the feeling center. And it's interesting because the 2 and the 4, deep feelers, but 2s tend to be really in touch with other people's feelings and less in touch with their own. And then kind of for the 4, they have a deep capacity, I think, for all feelings. So how do you see, or do you, let me say it that way, Kerri, see yourself growing in that way, and that you're becoming maybe less self-sacrificing, and more in tune with your feelings, your needs, maybe boundaries, just anything coming up for you on that?
Yeah. Boundaries is one I continue to work on every single day. I maybe I should preface, I struggle with certain boundaries. Like if I know somebody's being hurtful or untrustworthy, I can put in a boundary pretty quick with that. It's more like boundaries and saying no, or boundaries and feeling not obligated to do certain things. And so that's a constant daily thing that I have to kind of really stop myself and sit and goes, is this going to be beneficial to me, or is it going to be detrimental? Am I going to be resentful if I'm doing it, or am I not? And so I know like with 4s are good at allowing themselves to have space, right? They are fine with space, even though they can hold a lot of emotion, like you said, and feeling, and are great for other people that might not be in a good space, that they can hold that for them. They are really good though at saying like, I can be by myself. I need that quality time just with me. And so I'm learning to have to kind of be better at that. And then also when drawing on like emotion, also not just assuming that I know exactly what somebody is feeling. I mean, I do feel 2s are really good about reading a room. Like they can go into a room and they can like be like, that person doesn't seem like they're in the best mood, or man, she must have had a good day because she just seems really cheerful, type of a thing. But also then not being like, so, what's wrong today? What can I help you with? Making that issue an issue if there's really not one. So having to kind of allow space for that too.
Now we're talking kind of just how this is showing up in your life, some of this. I would also be curious to hear how anything that we've talked about, or maybe we can even get into that wing 1 a little bit, shows up for you as you start to build your own coaching brand, and the brand of Kerri, which tell us, I guess just tell us a little bit about how you see those things showing up, either helping you or maybe sometimes getting in your way.
Mhm. So I think what has helped me is, again, because I feel confident and secure in building relationships with people, um, kind of being present for them, being empathetic and holding space for them. I think especially where the one wing starts to kick in is that perfectionistic piece of feeling like I can't show who myself or content or put things out there for other people if it's not good, if it's not great, they're going to think that I'm incompetent or I'm not knowing what I'm talking about because I had a grammar issue. And so I can then drag my feet a lot, for a while because of allowing those kind of critic thoughts in my head, like, well, if you don't do this great, nobody's going to want to follow you and they're not going to like what you have to offer. So really trying to not allow that critical side of things that especially ones can play in their head come to surface. And I can give an example. Like I did put out a post and I could have read it, like I probably read it 4 or 5 times. And then I went back to it later and there was like two of the same words back to back in the sentence. And it ate inside of me the entire day to not go in and try to fix it. But I left it. I was like, just leave it alone, move on. It's fine. But I just like, that's things like ones can really struggle with, like just allowing there to be an imperfection and be fine with it and move on. So so those are some of the things that I've noticed as I'm trying to build my business, but can kind of hinder where I'm at, my progress, but also just reminding myself too when I'm doing that, like what is your purpose? Why are you doing this business? Why did you decide to start Stand Tall Enneagram? And it's because you want other people to feel confident in themselves, to not feel guilty about certain things, to be able to be like, I am good enough. I can do well enough. I don't have to I don't have to prove anything to anybody. What I want to do for me is good enough. And I'm like, I have to be like, if I have going to try to offer that experience for people to do, then I have to do it for myself too.